Ukraine. Let's talk about Ukraine. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. Donald Trump is going to meet with Vladimir Putin in Alaska and to talk about the invasion, Russia's invasion into Ukraine. It's being pitched by news agencies as peace talks, but there's no Ukraine involved in the peace talks. Vladimir Putin doesn't want to sit with President Zelensky and talk about how he would withdraw his troops that he started when he invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. So, what Putin has put forward is that he would be okay with the peace talks and the ceasefire if, Ukraine gives up the eastern part of its territory. Already from Vladimir Putin's invasion of Crimea in 2014, they have already annexed that part of Ukraine. And so Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, has already said that it's a non-starter if you are talking about giving up Ukraine territory. And I've said for quite some time that don't think that Donald Trump is Ukraine's friend. Ukraine shouldn't think that Donald Trump is Ukraine's friend. Europe shouldn't think that Donald Trump is Ukraine's friend. Donald Trump is not a good faith arbiter of peace between Ukraine and Russia because Donald Trump is Putin's friend and Donald Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump has, in instances where he should be outraged at Putin, demeaned Zelensky along with talking ill about Putin. He is open to talking about giving up parts of Ukraine or swapping parts. I don't know what swapping means because Ukraine hasn't invaded and annexed parts of Russia. So the only thing that comes out of this meeting with Putin in Alaska is Donald Trump opening up U.S. territory to a man who is killing innocent civilians, who has an arrest warrant from the International Court, over International Court of Criminal Justice doesn't have any jurisdiction over the United States, but our policy was to not have a dictator like Putin on U.S. territory, and then discussing the peace talks between Putin and Trump about Russia's invasion of Ukraine without Zelensky being present to talk about that topic. So how do you talk about peace talks between Ukraine and Russia without Ukraine being a party there? I can't imagine Vladimir Zelensky will hear me, but the right course of action would be to rely solely on your European allies and to push forward with pushing Russia out. You cannot rely on American supplies coming to you. You cannot rely on Donald Trump being an honest broker of peace between you and Russia. He is going to urge you to give up parts of your country. And if you don't, he is going to call you out and say that you are getting in the way of peace. All because he wants a Nobel Peace Prize and he just wants to resolve the matter however it happens. And the easiest way for him to happen is for the Ukrainian people and Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainian government to say, oh, we are going to cede more territory to Russia than we did in the annexation of Crimea. So we are essentially going to encourage Vladimir Putin to do that at another time if he wishes. Nothing stops him because he's already violated the major treaty that he had between Ukraine, United States, and Britain when Ukraine was asked to give up their nuclear weapons after the Cold War, a guarantee that nobody would attack Ukraine and breach Ukrainian sovereignty. Putin violated that in 2014, and then he really violated that in 2022, and that massacre continues to the day. And it's not a war in the, just on the ground in the battlefield, whether with drones or not. Russia, Putin is attacking civilian populations in Ukraine while his army encroaches into Ukrainian land. So please, media, don't say that Donald Trump is turning around on Ukraine. He's not. He has never been an honest broker of peace between Ukraine and Russia, and he's never going to be. So we should get over the illusion that Donald Trump is going to help stop the slaughter in Ukraine. He is more likely to turn around and blame Zelensky and blame the Ukrainian government for not, ceding land and Ukrainian territory for the sake of peace, without understanding that that only encourages Putin to do it later, even some more. And that's not what the Ukrainian people want. And that's not how international law works. You break international law, you break treaties, and you get rewarded for it with territory that you have invaded into in breach of international treaties and international law and war, the rules of war, rules of engagement when you attack civilian populations. So don't think that Donald Trump is going to help. Donald Trump is going to come around and probably attack Ukraine for not bowing to Russia and not for ceding territory. He's going to keep pushing on that because that's the easiest way. And then he's going to blame Vladimir Zelensky for not ceding territory and getting in the way of peace. That's more likely the way that he's going to go than to tell Putin to back off from Ukraine entirely. That is what I see happening. With that said, let's see what happens in this meeting. Let's see what happens in the press conference when they come out and talk about it. And let's see if that echoes from Helsinki or not, where he goes along with every single want that Putin has and call that the pathway to peace. We should prepare ourselves for that possibility. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.